For week one discussion, I'm doing dominant ideologies. So here we go. Understanding the ideologies we believe is crucial to being a responsible and moral individual. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." I believe that systems of thought, or ideologies, contain powers that we cannot fathom. It has proven tragic when people adopt an ideology without much thought beyond its surface claims of moral superiority. One such current example is the Marxist ideology. Marx believed that suffering was caused by economic injustice between those that have and those that have not. He believed inequality existed because the oppressors stole from the oppressed. The utopia could be brought about by leveling the playing field between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. Marxism was an ideology that claimed to care about the poor. On the surface, it seemed like a promising movement to end inequality and suffering. However, it left 100 million dead throughout the world in the 20th century. Turns out that people holding moral ideologies aren't always saintly. The claim was they cared for the poor, but in hindsight, their motives seemed more driven by a hatred for the rich. Ideologies can powerfully unify groups of people to take particular social actions, according to Steiner and Steiner. Unfortunately, it can also blind the group of the devil in the details to their worldview. Carl Jung says that people don't have ideas, ideas have people. Today, I believe much of the Marxist ideology is still very active. It no longer sees suffering as the result of economic inequality, but of social injustice. Yes, social inequality adds to suffering. But we know through the story of Genesis that suffering is a part of the tragedy of life. However, people still believe that inequality and suffering are rooted in the oppressor's treatment of the oppressed. Things aren't fair, and that's true, but targeting an oppressive group as the cause and demanding institutions to systematically change to correct the problem seems too similar to the recipe for genocide found throughout the 20th century. In 2013, as a freshman in college, I took a class where I was taught that my white privilege was the cause of inequality in America, and if I did not realize that, I was racist. I had to write a paper about how my inherent unconscious biases were damning the oppressed. Today, many universities adopt that ideological indoctrination. Even businesses such as Starbucks are putting their employees through unconscious bias training. It's not that I don't see the existence of social injustice. All hierarchical systems have inequalities, and that's tragic. But the notions of white privilege, unconscious bias, and the desperate need for diversity on the basis of race adds to the ideology that injustice and suffering can be fixed by reorganizing the socioeconomic structure by systematically leveling the playing field between classes of people. As leaders and managers, will we let our organizations play along with class identity politics, or will we hold to a Judeo-Christian ideology that encourages people to take self-responsibility and to view people as individuals outside of their race, gender, and class? I read this quick because try to make it in 2 minutes, it's 3 minutes. I encourage everyone that has an opposing view or criticism, if they want to share that, go ahead. I love having conversation, and we can debate these ideas because I am by no means an expert on this topic, and I'm open to opposing views. So feel free to share.